Hey everyone, you're with Tom. Thanks so much for joining us today on Tesla and EV news update from Australia to the world here on Ludicrous feed. I'm joined today by Riz from Carloop, as always. Hey Riz, how are you?
Yeah, going well, Tom. How you going?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. Yeah, it's been a lovely weekend here in Sydney. Hope you've all had a good weekend as well. And as usual, we're going to go through all the news headlines as always on the show. So let's put them on right now for all of us. All right, the first one is, of course, the Performance Model Y is a little bit closer to Australia. I received an email yesterday, along with a lot of Model Y performance holders, that yeah, to complete pre-delivery tasks for the Performance Model Y. Riz, how close am I if I'm receiving this email?
From the sounds of things, I guess it's the next stage of the whole delivery process as such. Um, as far as I can tell, probably close to the car being built. I believe you still got the RN number, um, and the VIN numbers are probably a couple of weeks away after the car is built. That's sort of put into your account. That indicates that the car itself has been built. Until that happens, I guess they just want to make sure all the other tasks are done. So when you get your VIN number, it's pretty much produced and it will be on a ship on its way to Australia very shortly after that.
Oh, you're getting me all excited there. So I was a day one order. I'm sure some of you have seen my video there. I ordered like I think 2 hours after the orders opened for Model Y in Australia, and my delivery window still says January to March, so quarter one 2023. It initially said November 2023, so obviously that was pushed back about 2 months ago to quarter one 2023. And yeah, a lot of people have also said around the same delivery window and possibly a bit later as well, February to May, thereabouts. So I'm hoping that they'll all come around that January to February 2023 mark. And of course, I'll update everyone as soon as I get a VIN, of course, on my order page.
I know that's sort of the next stage of it all, which is very exciting. Once these performances do land, they'll be some of the fastest SUVs on the road, and with those 20 and 21-inch wheels, the
Mm.
Uber turbines in that blue, or pretty much any Tesla car, they look awesome.
Yeah, those Uber turbines look fantastic. So when that email dropped, they asked me to complete my address, preferred delivery location, what I'm going to pay with, cash or finance, and then just showing me the cost at the moment. Now, Riz, there might possibly be the chance of a price drop with our next article I'm going to put up here. In the US, it looks like prices are dropping for Tesla. Could Australia be next?
Oh, that's the big question. Um, I guess with everything going on, particularly in markets where they can produce cars and deliver them. So think of the US, they make them there, they deliver them there. China is the same. That's where they're sort of going with the price cuts to begin with. They're obviously larger markets than ours, our right-hand drive market here in Australia. But having said that, if the prices do drop to stimulate some demand before Christmas, I would say for Model Ys, they will end up at the same place where they were in the first week when the orders did open, which were around four thousand plus dollars cheaper than what they are today. So if that happens, maybe some of those order holders that place an order in the following weeks after the first week, they may be paying the same price as what those that ordered in the first week may pay. But it's possibly on the cards to stimulate some demand.
Yeah, that's a good point, Riz. Traditionally, Tesla has honored the lower price. If you order at a lower price, then they'll honor that. If the price dropped lower than what you ordered at, they'll normally honor the lower price between the two. So if the final price becomes the original price that I ordered at, that's great, no loss, no gain. If it goes lower, hey, I'm happy. But as you said, if you ordered after that price increase and it goes back to what it was, then you're winning. You're on the same level field, playing field as all of us. I see in the US the prices are probably dropping because there's lower demand because they're all waiting for this incentive from this Inflation Reduction Act as well.
Yeah, so that's been the key driver. That's still not finalized yet. If it does come into place, probably early next year, Tesla will be huge winners. So a lot of people are waiting for that because with the current incentives, my understanding is Tesla is not eligible because they've produced more than 200,000 EVs in the country. So any manufacturer that hasn't produced that much, any customer that buys them is eligible for the tax credits. Whereas with the new law or new act, the Inflation Reduction Act, it would be Tesla would be included as well. It's more focused around where the battery materials come from.
That's right. So yeah, so the battery's got to be built in the US, I believe, or sourced from materials in the US.
That's what they're sort of leaning towards. I mean, they will soften it a bit to uh, incorporate some of the other Korean brands and other things, but that's what they're leaning towards. So maybe people are holding off on it. I think it's generally just a demand issue in general. Interest rates are going up. People are feeling uncertain about things, and Teslas are as good of an EV as they are. They're still somewhat of a luxury item. So people are thinking twice before placing an order or going ahead with it if they had one on order.
Yeah, the evidence is right there. You've put in a postcode around New York, and there's quite a few cars in the inventory page for Model 3, so that certainly reflects that decreased demand, certainly. Looks like prices have dropped by about $3,500 on average, and they're all holding out, hoping for a $7,500 subsidy. So, yeah, we shall see what happens in the US, and more importantly, what happens in Australia, whether we get that price drop as well. Fingers crossed for all of us here.
Mhm.
Next article is just a nice little, I guess, indicator of how much or how many batteries or how much your batteries cost in your Model Y compared to, for example, a Hummer that's got almost 3 times the cost of batteries in that car.
Yeah, I think this particular article is focusing around the minerals and particularly lithium. Um, so, give or take, it's roughly 3 times as much that goes in to build a Hummer EV. So GM, wish them the best, but it's going to take a lot of effort, you know, to get those vehicles out compared to, Tesla can churn three out using the same materials. Goes to show how efficient Teslas are as well. I know it's a different type of a vehicle, the Hummer itself, but yeah, just goes to show that Tesla can produce way more cars for that same cost for that lithium that goes into them.
Yeah, it certainly sounds more efficient from a Tesla point of view. Of course, these are just pure costs without any of the, I guess, value add around it. And also, as you mentioned, Riz, the fact that there's now the difference between lithium iron phosphate pricing and the old or the previous nickel, cobalt, manganese type chemistry. That gap is starting to narrow. So some of that cost benefit for lithium iron phosphate is starting to decrease a bit too.
And obviously, there's a lot more development going in to different battery materials as well. We sort of touched on sodium ion in one of our previous episodes with some of the, um, hatchback sort of vehicles that are coming into market in the near future. So that's going to be quite interesting to see how that turns out. But I guess batteries are the most important component, and as long as manufacturers have a shortage for them, the prices will remain high for most EVs.
Yeah, there's been a few factors there as to why the cost of an EV has not reached parity with ICE just yet. Certainly, supply issues are one thing, amongst other factors too. Yeah, Tesla Riley reports that Polestar has reached a NCAP rating of 5 stars in Europe.
Yeah, good. Oh, well, really good news. Polestar obviously is Volvo-based vehicles with their safety systems, and Volvos have always been known for being some of the safest cars out there. Last couple of years, Tesla's made huge improvements as well, and sort of, they've with some of the recent NCAP results as well for Teslas, they've been right at the top, and great to see the Volvos come back and done pretty well with the NCAP safety rating as well, which will generally apply to ANCAP in
Mm.
Australia as well.
Yeah, my apologies. The headline says NCAP, which is the US version. Sorry, so NCAP is Europe, and then that
Yeah.
translates to ANCAP here in Australia. So no, good to see Polestar continue Volvo's tradition of safety. It's good to see. Across now to the US, GM doubles down on Ultium battery production plant investment.
Yeah, so this plant is one of the few investments that they do have. Obviously, if they're going to build Hummer EVs, they're going to need quite a lot of plants and quite a lot of batteries to make it happen. With I think it's close to 200 kilowatt hours battery pack that goes into them. So for that 4.5 ton vehicle, a lot needs to go in. So they're investing quite a bit in their Ultium battery technology as well as production systems, and that includes gigafactory-like battery manufacturing plants. Part of this also is that the Inflation Reduction Act that we touched on with Tesla lowering the prices because it hasn't been finalized yet, because GM vehicles will also be eligible for those incentives once they do roll out, particularly with batteries being assembled or manufactured on US land.
Yeah, it looks like General Motors is in partnership with Korean brand LG. And as you said, Riz, they're broadening that definition to allow those incentives for not just the US made materials. Obviously, LG being Korean, they're opening that to all players, maybe as well, not just
Hmm.
US made. And yeah, look at this article here. This sort of piqued my curiosity. BMW to begin low volume production of hydrogen fuel cell iX5 SUVs. I wonder why BMW is going back to hydrogen when a lot of the legacy auto is shying away from it.
Um, yeah, it's a bit of an interesting take on the way things are moving ahead. I know you shouldn't put all your eggs in one technology basket as such, which happens to be battery electric vehicles. But yeah, curious to see. It's sort of not the first time they've sort of played with hydrogen as such, but this is sort of the first time that they're going in with something that, the X5 is sold really well, sells really well for the brand. So they're going to be experimenting with it at low volumes, and I guess we will see. I doubt we'll ever see um, any examples of this on our roads, but I do believe we may get a few display cars in Australia that will be the hydrogen powered iX5s next year.
Yeah, so it looks like this has been built off the X5, popular X5 petrol version. Literally, they've just pulled out the floor, installing two hydrogen tanks under the seat, and yeah, fuel cell electric vehicle. I mean, personally, if I'm going to go hydrogen, it doesn't make sense to me. It's basically another fossil fuel type model where I'm going to a service station to fuel the vehicle. Whereas you and I know battery electric, you can source from solar panels. You can install a charger almost anywhere where you've got power. So I don't know. For me, it doesn't make sense for a sort of low passenger sort of type vehicle or light passenger vehicle.
I mean, storage is always the key, right? Particularly, we're still talking about storing hydrogen, which is still flammable and explosive and everything else that goes with it. So, um, I guess we wish them the very best in trying to look into a technology. Um, but we sort of know battery electric vehicles are the way to go in terms of the infrastructure need, which is not as high as you said, Tom. You're going to have to go somewhere to fill it up, and that's something just people don't want to do when you've got an electric vehicle.
Yep, no, that's very true. We shall see what happens with BMW and their hydrogen experiment. Moving on to back in the US, 2023 Michigan police testing results are out, and the Ford Mustang Mach-E has struggled. Well, obviously, if you want a police vehicle, you want it to be fast, and unfortunately, the Mach-E was sort of middle of the pack there against all the other cars they tested.
Yeah, so this, emergency vehicles will need electrification as well. Um, and obviously, they've used petrol versions in the past. A lot of the US police departments as well as us here. Um, these days, some of our vehicles are diesels. So in Victoria, we have BMW 5 Series diesel highway patrol cars, but they will need to be electrified and decarbonized. And trials like these are good because it gives you an idea, and emergency departments can learn off each other from others that have tried this. In this case, the Michigan State Police Department. Um, but yeah, not great when it sort of comes to the performance or the things that I guess they would be looking for as a vehicle to transition to when it comes to fighting crime and doing all the things that these police cars do.
That's right. Well, at least our boys and girls in blue are testing EVs. That's good to see. At least that's quite encouraging. So, yeah, keep testing, everyone, and yeah, hope to see more electric emergency type vehicles on our roads. Not just police, fire, and ambulance as well. All right, let's move over to China now, and BYD is expanding its operations. A new plant in Jinan, Shandong province, starting production. BYD quietly going about its business.
Yeah, it seems that way. I guess unlike General Motors, who do get on with the business, but they tell everyone what they'll be doing. Um, BYD's opening plants within China and outside of China as well. For the right-hand drive market like ours, there's a relatively large production plant going in Thailand. Within China, they're obviously broadening that as well. And as you said, Tom, very quietly, they're just making sure that they get the production up as they are preparing for global expansion, multiple markets and multiple continents, including ours here in Australia.
It's really interesting to see how the Chinese or the Asian model of producing cars is. They sort of do a production, then they do a soft launch where, okay, we're doing it, but not really big hoo-ha about it. And then they go, okay, we've made, whatever X number of vehicles already. Whereas maybe a US or European model where it's like, we're going to do this and big show hard launch, and then they start doing it. So, I guess whatever works for your market, but yeah, good to see BYD doing good things.
Hmm.
All right, staying in China now, Tesla in China is offering the soft promise that if Chinese customers order now, they'll get delivery this month. So we're talking December 2022, which has only got, let's
Hmm.
see, 28 days left.
Yeah, they seem to be building quite a bit of hype around it. One of the reasons we sort of touched on what's happening in the US and some of the incentives that they have with Tesla lowering prices over there to encourage people not to wait for that Inflation Reduction Act. In China, it's something similar because they've got their incentives technically running out at the end of this year. So they're trying to, get the demand going because they're producing so much now that Giga Shanghai has expanded. The economic conditions, from the sounds of things, look like people are slightly worried about purchasing new vehicles or new luxury items. So they need to do what they can to pull the demand levers so that people do feel confident to place an order on them, and incentivizing them by giving them cash discount, insurance offers, or even things like, hey, you will get your vehicle within the next 4 weeks or so. That could be what may push some people over to say, okay, it's time to, purchase this vehicle, and rather than waiting till next year.
Yeah, it's a slightly worrying trend, I guess. We've been covering this for the last couple of weeks now. We've got the Chinese demand going down with inventory cars there and offering models quickly. And you've got the US inventory cars on their sites. And then even in Australia, there's more inventory cars as well. I mean, it's happening sort of all around the world with Tesla. But then on the flip side, we've got BYD increasing their production. And we've seen graphs in previous episodes where they're a bit higher now than Tesla. Is this a trend, Riz, that we'll see continuing into 2023?
I think it's the risk that some people, the perceived risk of purchasing something that's a little bit more expensive. Um, once you have a Tesla, then it's very unlikely that you'll go to another brand as such because of the overall experience that's offered. But they've maintained the purchasing price has been higher. Um, it's still sitting a little bit higher than what it was in the beginning of the year. So a lot of people, particularly in markets like China, where consumers are very well educated, particularly around prices and deals and what's going on. So they want to be buying at the time that they feel confident enough that it's the best possible time to buy. The prices, from what I understand, are still slightly higher than they were when they were at their lowest sort of end of last year. So that's what people are comparing it to. And the economic times are a little bit, with some of the lockdowns in cities in China, as well as the general worldwide economy, people are not as confident anymore. So it is a worrying trend, but I feel that if Tesla are facing such challenges, then other brands, like I think I heard the Mercedes with some of their EQ cars, have dropped 30,000 US dollars off the prices of some of their Chinese models, or the models they sell in China. So other manufacturers will be bleeding big time if Tesla's facing slight, let's say decrease in demand. The others are just, yeah, they're going to really feel the pinch, and they're
Yeah.
already been declining in their volumes anyway.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, price is so elastic with the auto industry for sure. Compared to, I mean, a lot of industries are elastic, but particularly the auto industry, and there are so many factors at play here: economic confidence, consumer confidence, interest rates. It's going to be a very interesting year in 2023, that's for sure.
Mm.
And finally, tonight is NIO, another Chinese brand, has opened its first swap station in the Netherlands and Europe. That's finally gone live, and I love these pictures, by the way, Riz. Look at that, like it's just a beautiful display there. I love the red bow as well, just ready to go. But the fact that you can do a battery swap, within 7 minutes, and then
Yeah,
away you go. That's about the same time as fueling a petrol car, really.
yeah, and you basically don't have to see anyone. The car does most of the things on its own. You reserve a battery before you get there, and it will tell you there's 11 out of the 13 batteries at that swap station. And it's not, this is not a prototype. They've done millions of these swaps. So the technology works, owners are using it. And yeah, the cars and how stylish they are compared
Mm.
to, in comparison to some of the other makes, I mean, they look very European, like very Porsche-like from that angle there. Um, and yeah, combine that with some of their battery swap station technology, it's really sleek and exciting and makes customer feel quite a bit of an experience. I guess what used to happen with Tesla back in the day when the Model S's and the X's were around. And it's still pretty good experience. And NIO's just doing something slightly different, and launching in the European market is a big step for them. So hopefully in the next 12 to 18 months, we'll see them launch in many other markets, including the US, which we've touched on before, and possibly Australia in the next 24 months. So very exciting to see, and it just looks stunning.
Mm. No, I agree. The cars look beautiful. It's a beautiful sort of sporty sedan look with that beautiful fastback at the back. I think Australia will be a great test market. Sydney to Melbourne, Sydney to Brisbane route. Put a few swap stations there. Get a few test vehicles out here for Ludicrous fee to check out and test up and down the East Coast. I mean, it'd be great. We'd put those critics to bed and go, look, 7 minute swap battery time. Away you go. You can do your Sydney to Melbourne in a few stops.
I think that's a brilliant idea. So hopefully NIO's listening, because this is a market that it needs to happen. One of the key advantages that I see with these swap stations, and we've touched on it in some of our previous episodes, is that you can use the batteries that are in there as storage and to sort of store electricity produced in that area. So imagine all the solar farms that currently during summer are producing all this excess solar and aren't really doing much with it, because during the middle of the day the grid's already loaded and you can't get that power from where they are to where we need it in the cities. So imagine if they can actually produce that energy in country Victoria, country New South Wales, country Queensland, and have these battery swap stations a way of storing it, and the cars pull up, get their battery swap, keep going down wherever they're going along the east coast, and the NIO swap station manages the power and stores renewable energy from those areas.
Oh, it sounds too good to be true, Riz. It's like a utopia. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Stabilize the grid, keep people moving. NIO, we've just laid out your business model right here for you in Australia, so you're welcome. Now, I guess one concern I always had was with battery swap, and by the way, Tesla did outline this early in its history, back in the early 2010s. This is what they wanted to do, battery swap technology, and here's NIO doing it for them. But yeah, one of my concerns was always, well, do you get the same battery when you swap? I mean, I was always concerned about that, the quality and the degradation. But this next thing that Riz has shown me is that NIO actually offers a free lifetime warranty on its vehicles free lifetime warranty. I read that twice. No time or mileage limits, which means that I guess you don't really own the battery as such. The company owns the battery, and you're just there to, as a caretaker, to swap in and out as you go along road trips.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. And the I guess the exciting part about this is that it takes the hassle and the worry. One of the biggest concerns people have when they look at electric vehicles is how long will the battery last? Well, with this model, you don't have to worry about it because NIO manages that for you. It's in their best interest to ensure that the battery's at optimum level and they're not putting out subpar batteries back into people's vehicles, which gives bad customer experience and the rest of it. So this is lifetime roadside rescue, car connectivity, all of the other things that come with connected cars and ground up EVs they're offering, but also the lifetime carefree warranty. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, having a EV, there's not much wear and tear in the actual vehicle itself. Very few moving parts in the powertrain, and if you've taken away the worry and the degradation concern with the battery because you don't own it, I mean, you can own that thing for life, or your life, and Neo will take care of the battery. You can drive as long as you want with that vehicle. It's a phenomenal business model. I think Neo onto a good thing for sure.
Oh, definitely very exciting.
Yeah, exciting time. So hopefully we'll see Neo come to Australia, as we've said. All right, everyone. Well, that is it from myself and Riz for episode 8. I hope you've enjoyed those articles. And of course, the big story is that the Performance Model Y emails have dropped to fill out more details. So I think they are starting to be produced hopefully in the next 6 to 8 weeks. And that's when we'll see them come to Australia. Big news indeed. Riz, as always, thank you for your time.
Thanks a lot, Tom. It is exciting. Like we sort of said earlier, there'll be some of the fastest SUVs on our roads next year. Lots of people been waiting patiently, and many, many years for some. Well worth it. And thanks everyone for all the feedback that you've been giving on these episodes that we're putting together. And if you've got any suggestions, leave them in the comments.
Absolutely. Well said, Riz. And of course, as the Performance Model Y starts to be delivered next year, you'll see it all here on the Ludicrous feed. We'll bring you every moment of the delivery day and also ownership vlogs as well to see what it's like to own a Tesla in Australia. All right, everyone, from Riz and myself, take care. And as always, happy charging.